What's up, peeps? Spoiler alert, Easter's on the way. My name is Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and today we're going down the drive-by truckers rabbit hole. I'm going to just say this. If you're watching this video and you have not heard the drive-by truckers, please, when this video is over, go check them out. Start with one of the top 3 albums on this list. I'm not going to give it away now. Sorry. You checked on it, so you were planning on watching it anyways. Or just skip ahead. Check them out. 2 of the best lyricists in rock and roll, in music today, are in this band. Patterson Hood, Mike Cooley. Both singers, guitar player. Mike Cooley's more of a lead guitar player. Patterson is more rhythm. Hood writes the more songs than Cooley, maybe like 2-to-1 ratio, maybe a little higher than that depending on the albums. Definitely higher than that depending on the albums. Maybe more of a 3-to-1 over the course of their career. Maybe 4-to-1. Anyways, they both write songs. They have other songwriters that have been in the band, other members of the band who have been in the band that have written songs. Most notably, Jason Isbell was in the band for 3 albums. He wrote some absolutely amazing songs, but their lyrics are fantastic. They're a Southern rock, alt country, more recently, more of a normal type rock band with like 80s, 90s influences seeping in. Very political, not necessarily naming names all the time, but they have an agenda. A populist, progressive type band, sort of telling the stories of the people in the South. They deal with the South here in the United States, slavery, the Civil War, the history of racism that followed that. As Patterson Hood likes to call it, the duality of the Southern thing. That is addressed quite notably in an album called Southern Rock Opera. They are fans of Leonard Skinner. They have sort of an entire side of music that details Leonard Skinner's sort of career and ends in one of the most devastating songs ever. And they have some of the best lyrics ever. Patterson Hood writes these kind of character studies, but he kind of addresses larger issues. He's more of a folk stylist, and that is, he's addressing America as a whole. Cooley definitely writes more character-driven songs. Cooley's stuff is a lot more poetic and really fun to sing. The alliteration, the wordplay, fantastic. Patterson Hood is more of a storyteller and tells like longer stories with like as effective lines, but not quite as intricately written. Fantastic. I think all of these albums are pretty solid. Problem with this band is that every album has at least one almost near classic song, so you got to check them all out. Don't think any of them are outright bad. I just like some of them more than others. Trying to go quickly here just because there's 14 of them, so I'm going to probably kind of go short on the early ones so I can say more about the awesome later ones. And yeah, how did I get here from Zappa? Recently, I asked for people to suggest bands to deep dive into. This came up, so I moved them from the main big list to the short list because this is a band I am a huge fan of. I've seen them live dozens upon dozens and dozens of times in the last 2 decades. One of the best live acts out there. They just play these epic marathon shows, and just the energy just never seems to fail, never seems to wane. But they cover Van Halen live in concert, and Steve Vai played with David Lee Roth, who was in Van Halen. Plus, they also covered Tom Petty, and the Tom Petty, Frank references, makes a Tom Petty joke in the last US show. So there's at least 2 connections that I know of. Those are them. I'm going with those. But yeah, we got 14 albums to get to. Seriously, man, check out this band if you haven't. They are amazing. Okay, let's get on to number 14. Number 14 is Go-Go Boots, their 9th studio album. These are all studio albums I'm doing, came out in 2011. This has, hands down, one of the greatest drive-by trucker songs of all time, Used to Be a Cop. The energy on this is almost a little more My Morning Jacket, kind of a simple but very driving, propulsive type groove that just has this very repetitive like bass pattern and this awesome groove. And it's the character study of a guy who used to be a cop. And the lyrics, the way Patterson Hood tells the story, in which you get like the first verse, I used to be a cop, but you don't really know why. And then in the second verse, he adds more details. Oh, okay, that's why. And then as every verse and chorus and bridge gets added, it's a more complex picture. And it's really not even about this cop, but it's about how society fails this guy and how, you know, he has no way to deal with it. There is a line in here that is one of the most gut-punching sort of lines ever. Gonna give this away right now. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to talk about it in the top 10 songs video, because this is going to be on the top 10 songs. Used to be a cop, but one of the most gut-punching great lines of all time. The rest of this album, I think, is kind of weak. It's by far their weakest effort. A lot of these songs came from the recording session for The Big To Do, which was the 8th album, the previous album. And then there was material added to sort of flesh out the album. And yeah, I just think a lot of it does kind of sound like filler. I think if you combine the best of Go-Go Boots and The Big To Do, you have an absolutely amazing album. Instead, it's sort of two longer albums with a lot of weak spots. I like the opener. I do believe it's kind of an uplifting thing. There's a couple of like these Patterson Hood slow jams that he plays, which are like kind of bass driven, but kind of low key and simmering. And he tells these really intriguing narrative tales, sometimes ripped from the headline, sometimes just sort of, not caricatures, but like character studies of type of people. Go-Go Boots is one of those that kind of works. The Thanksgiving Filter really works. Those are two pretty good songs. Cooley really doesn't shine too well on this one. I do like his song Pulaski, the penultimate song on here, about a young woman. That is a really nice, comfortable. Cooley writes these like really simple, almost like acoustic driven songs that are just kind of sound jaunty and happy, but then you listen to the lyrics and you're like, oh, there's nothing jaunty or happy about this at all. But yeah, there's a cover of an Eddie Hinton song called Everybody Needs Love, which I kind of like. But other than that, it's a pretty inconsistent album. No real highs other than Used to Be a Cop. A couple kind of lows. But yeah, just I think easily their weakest. 14, Go-Go Boots. Number 13 is 2006's A Blessing and a Curse. This was the third of 3 albums with Jason Isbell. By far the weakest of the 3, obviously. It's got 2 or 3 fantastic songs, 2 of which are Cooley's. Cooley only writes 2 songs on this, and they're both the highlights of the album. Hood maybe has 1 or 2 good songs. I think Isbell's songs sound a little more mainstream and traditional, but his voice is so incredible that as soon as he starts singing, I'm completely invested in the song, and I'm willing to forgive any weak songwriting tropes. But his voice is just amazing. Aftermath USA, which is a Hood song, is like a nice little gritty, fun vibe about it. The title track, I think one of the longer songs on the album, has a nice Blue Oyster Cult type heavier vibe to it, slightly proggy in parts of it. The ending song, A World of Hurt, a Hood song, is a really nice closer. Hood does a lot of talking in his songs, kind of almost like not really preaching, not really doing poetry, but kind of narrating a story type thing. You get a little bit of that in there, I think, which is always kind of, I like Hood when he does that. But the Cooley songs are ridiculous. Second song, Gravity's Gone. I've been falling so long, it feels like gravity's gone and I'm just floating. It's just a song about a man who's down on his luck. And let me tell you, nobody drops great line after great line after great line better than Cooley. These songs are just like so tightly woven and just so, and they're so much fun to sing along to. Yeah. Some of these I can't quote because of the language. We're trying to keep it clean. But just, they're so much fun to sing. But just the whole chorus. So I'll meet you at the bottom if there really is one. They always told me when you hit it, you'll know it. But I've been falling so long, it's like gravity's gone and I'm just floating. And it's just this jaunty kind of upbeat Southern rock vibe. And then Space City, towards the second end of the album on the second side. It's about sort of someone who lives in Space City, which is sort of the surrounding area from where they launched the rockets here in Alabama, and how all this money is poured into like Space City, and all the surrounding areas are just poor and destitute and like completely forgotten about. And there's a line in here which I just think is one of the most cleverly written lines and captures so much about what it's like to be living so close to Space City, but in abject poverty. The line is, Space City's 1 hour up the road for me. It's 1 hour away from as close to the moon as anybody down here is ever going to be. There's a lot in there, But the whole idea, like, yeah, Space City's an hour from me, but that's an hour closer to the moon than any of us can even dream about going. And it's just about kind of a love loss and a bad situation. But just that line, I don't know, that gets me every time. So a more not much Southern rock, not much all country on this, a more straightforward rock thing, not as interesting, couple incredible highlights. But yeah, that would be my number 13, A Blessing and a Curse. Number 12 is their most recent album, which came out in June of 2022, Welcome to Club 13. This is a really good album. I don't think there's any tracks that are absolutely stand out or I think are the best of the best so far, but I don't think there's anything bad on the album. There's definitely sort of a lyrical theme about looking back at your past and remembering not necessarily the golden days, but just sort of appreciating all the troubles and travails you went through to reach this point where Mike Cooley and Patterson Hood are aging rock stars. Kind of feels like a lot of Dave Davies type songs were like, hey, we've been in this together for so long. So really nice, a nice vibe about that. But then there's also sort of a looking at America and, you know, that kind of like we're still in America kind of thing. And that not being able to really ignore the modern society we live in, which is something that is kind of dominates the theme of these last several albums. Really nice slow burning opener. The Driver, just this really nice, long, takes its time, really good song. The closing song, Wilder Days, another kind of slow burning one, but that has kind of almost encapsulates all the themes of the entire album in one song. We have a song called We Will Never Wake You in the Morning, which seems to be a eulogy for a drug victim. Has a really nice kind of icy slow burn energy also. What else do we have on here? Welcome. I already got Welcome. Oh yeah, Welcome to Club 13 is an upbeat rock song that kind of remembers the earlier days. Has a kind of a rock and roll part 2, that kind of doont kind of beat to it. But it's definitely apparently as of now not written by people you don't want to listen to. Every Single Storied Flameout, one of the better of the 2 Cooley contributions. Everything else is a Hood song. There's another Cooley contribution, the second song, which is a weaker thing. Kind of is another song about burnt out rock stars. I mean, Every Single Storied Flameout has a nice little horn section at the end of it. Some of these, this album and the 2 that preceded it, even the 3 that preceded it, there is at times an Exile on Main Street vibe to it. As they move away from the country rock, the Southern rock and the all country, they're leaning in toward this really economical, like I think terse, efficient, but at times layering horns and other things on top of it, like Exile on Main Street vibe, kind of their version of that, that I think is really neat. This song kind of has that same tempo. But yeah, it's a solid album. I don't think there's anything bad on here. I don't think there's anything that really jumps out at me as like the best of the best that they've done, but not a bad album at all. But yeah, that would be my number 12, Welcome to Club 13. Number 11 is English Oceans. This came out in 2014. It is their 10th album. Pretty solid album. There's a couple absolutely great songs on here. Again, I think this is Cooley's album. I think Cooley kind of wins this album. In fact, I think this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Cooley songs, which might be a record. I'll count them as we go, but other than the double album, I think this is the most Cooley songs on an album. And for almost the entire album, it's like just alternating songs. Some really, really good stuff on here, but I think the second half kind of just gets a little, just doesn't have quite the inspiration as the first half. The opening song, Shit Shots Count, is an awesome Cooley opener. That has that sort of tight, effective sort of Exile on Main Street energy, I think. Primer Coat, the third song, another Cooley song, is your sort of perfect example of like a really sweet, melodic, almost acoustic driven or like non-distorted driven type country-ish song. This one about is like a father looking out on his daughter who's about to get married. And just some of the lines in here just about how he expresses that sort of angst that a father feels is just like, man, Cooley is just an absolutely phenomenal lyricist. But it says, it comes to women and they survive, but when the same comes to men, someone comes for their babies, something dies there and then. Just in describing how a father feels when his daughter gets married away. Something comes to women and they survive, but when it comes to men, I don't know. It's just really good about like catching little people character traits. One of many, many, many great lines in this song, Primer Coat. What else do we got? Pauline Hawkins attempts to be a bigger, more Springsteen-esque, kind of like Jungle Land, their version of something a little more epic. I don't think it quite works. The ending sort of jam just kind of fails. But then we get what I think might be the highlight of the album, Made Up English Oceans, another Cooley song. This one is just kind of a commentary on people in general. And it has this line, people, and I would love to know what you think this line means in the comments. I'm not trying to solicit comments, but I know what I think of when I hear this. And as someone, if you were born in the 70s, raised in the 70s or 80s, you might have the similar response. But the line is, he's talking about our senseless acts of selfishness on made-up English oceans and made-up English stomach contents tied to senseless notions. Okay, when I heard this the first time, I thought of one thing and one thing only. And made-up English stomach contents tied to senseless notions. Read the comments. I'm sure somebody will get it right, or I will let you know if you think the same thing I'm thinking. But yeah, like this is the perfect example of what the song about. He's sort of commentating on modern like society, but it's the line is because only simple men can see the logic in whatever. Smarter men can whittle down till you can fit it on a sticker. Yes, love it. One of many, many great lines. But again, it's got this really propulsive forward acoustic vibe. It's just like, absolutely amazing. And the way he sings his lyrics is almost like, it's not rapping, but he's a pretty rapid fire little, gets him out pretty quick. The rest of the album kind of treads water for a good while. Nothing absolutely that fantastic. Yeah, and that's about it. What else did I have? Natural Light has a really good Cooley, another good upbeat Cooley song that has a pretty good vibe about it. And then the closing Grand Canyon, which I think is another eulogy song. It's a pretty epic song. They used to close out main sets with it, sometimes end shows with it. It's a pretty good 8-minute, kind of slow, not really slowly building because it doesn't erupt into anything, but this slowly building into like a grand gesture, sort of Patterson Hood sort of ballad type thing. Absolutely really good song. So a good album with some amazing, amazing highlights. Went on a long time about this. Number 11, English Oceans. Number 9 is The Big To Do. This came out in 2010. This was the album from which the sessions for this, they took a lot of the Go-Go Boots album and then added some extra tracks. Much stronger album than Go-Go Boots. I do think coming in at 53 minutes, you could cut maybe 2 songs, tighten it up just a little bit. It's got some really strong stuff. Hood's The Fourth Night of My Drinking, a nice sort of character study of, Fourth Night of My Drinking. Drag the Lake Charlie and The Wig He Made Her Wear. I think they were both based on true like crime stories. But The Wig He Made Her Wear, I know we were listening to this in car. My wife was like, hey, I saw this on like History Channel or something like that, about a priest who used to make his wife like dress up and then she ended up killing him. What else? After the Scene Dies, a kind of nice reflective look on, the music scene. Tucker, their bass player, Shona Tucker, has a nice song on here. It's going to be I Told You So. Nice little upbeat country number. She's got a really good country voice. But the highlight of this, again, it's the third song, a Mike Cooley song called Birthday Boy. And there is a line on here. It's about a guy who goes to a strip joint. It's kind of from the viewpoint of the stripper. And the line is, I think this might be my second favorite Cooley line. It's the entire verse, so be patient. The pretty girls from the smallest towns get remembered like storms and droughts that old men talk about for years to come. I guess that's why they give us names, so a few old men can say they saw us reign when we were young. Oh, the wordplay in that is deep, man, deep. And yes, rain is spelled lyrically by them as rain and not rain, R-E-I-G-N. But those pretty girls reigned over those small towns just as well. So A fantastic line. But yeah, not a bad album. Gets a little, kind of repeats itself a little towards the end, I think, and kind of runs out of energy. Really good start. But man, Cooley's lyrics on Birthday Boy kind of make the whole thing essential. And it's not going to make the top 10, which is why I'm talking about the lyrics. So if I praise a song and don't talk about the lyrics, that's going to happen in the top 10 song videos. I've just realized I can save time by doing that. But anyways, that is number 10, The Big To Do. Number 9 is their 13th album, 2020's The New OK. Really solid album from start to finish. Love the overall vibe on this. Not very much heavy Southern rock. Little alt-country vibe every so often. Not very heavy on the guitar solo action. It's definitely more of a straightforward song-based kind of... I want to compare it to the Strokes, not because it sounds like the Strokes, but it feels like there's this economic sort of efficiency sort of to it, like a tightness, a terseness to the sound that I really like. Production-wise, their albums, I think, are always produced really well, especially after you get past the first two. Their shortest album, I'm pretty sure, at 36 minutes, and maybe that's why I like it, because it's one of those that's just a little more easily digestible. A lot of theirs tend to run kind of long. The opening, The New OK, has a really good, nice swing to it. Great opener, but still at the same time, kind of the New OK is not something we should be okay with. Hood's Tough to Let Go. It's a really nice keyboard melody that kind of carries you through the front part. Has a very nice sort of sway to the song. What did I love? Oh, the Unraveling, a Hood and their bass player, who is fantastic, by the way. Matt Patton co-wrote the song The Unraveling. A little more aggressive type indie rock number. I'm okay with it. Perilous Night has this propulsive, almost disco groove that is absolutely infectious and absolutely amazing and is just phenomenal. And then we get the highlight of the album for me, another Mike Cooley song. This one's called Sarah's Flame. I'm pretty sure it's about Sarah Palin. It has this line. So Sarah Palin was a conservative politician here in the States. You know, very much someone not as interested in getting stuff done in Washington as is like stirring the pot. But this is how he opens the song to describe Sarah Palin. And I can't think of a better. It's Sarah memorized every bumper sticker on the back of every pickup with a rebel flag. Every morning in the senior parking lot. Every weekend in the fields with the windows hot. Bam! Mic dropped. Walk away, but the song gets better. Again, like I said, if you don't like politics in your song, I happen to agree with their politics. I happen to find myself somewhat of a progressive populist, so I love these songs, and I love the way they tackle the issues they tackle. Great song. What else? Sea Island Lonely. What did I write about that? That is a really nice... reminds me of Ricky Lee Jones' Chucky's in Love. Has that sort of bass-driven sound. Some horns come in at the end. They just give it that kind of jazzy little vibe. Watching the Orange Clouds should have been the closing song on this. There's a song after it, a cover of the Ramones, The KKK Took My Baby Away, which live, I need it. I don't need it on an album. If you're going to put it on, put it as the penultimate track. It's like, oh, let's get this out of the way before Watching the Orange Clouds. Because Watching the Orange Clouds definitely has... some nice country touches to it, but it's an easygoing song, but the lyrics are really, really, really depressing. It's about just the current state of America, or at least in 2020, which wasn't a positive thing. So yeah, a solid album from start to finish, and one that I think will continue to grow on me over the years. I've only listened to it for just under, 2.5 years now? But yeah, a really, really good album. Number, whatever we're on, 9, whatever number that is, The New OK. Number 8 is 2020's, earlier in 2020's, than the last one, The Unraveling, their 12th album. And The Unraveling is the perfect name for this album. It feels like every song is a commentary on the unraveling of the United States of America. The titles, pretty much a lot of the titles give away the tone of this album. Rosemary with a Bible and a Gun. Armageddon's Back in Town, which actually is kind of an upbeat pop song. Thoughts and Prayers. Go to hell with your thoughts and prayers. Yeah, not a good spin on thoughts and prayers. Heroin Again, which is actually one of the jauntier little numbers musically on here, but when you listen to the lyrics, yeah, things aren't so good as it seems. Babies in Cages, which is an epic, awesome, slow burning, almost feels just uncomfortable to listen to. But yeah, it's about putting babies in cages, our immigration policy. You want to cause a fight in America? Bring up immigration, people. This song is their commentary on immigration and babies in cages. Yeah, the awaiting resurrection, the slow burning closer that has this guitar comes in that just has this really kind of sparse, but at the same time forceful, just very poignant energy about it. Yeah, it's not an uplifting album. It's not a positive album, but it is a satisfying album. The opening, Rosemary with the Bible and a Gun, nice, almost more low-key, ballady type opener, very somber, very subdued. Armageddon's Back in Town, Slow Ride Argument, a Cooley song, have more of a rock pop, almost early 80s type energy, but without that 80s sound. Thoughts and Prayers, yeah, just a lot of opinion on there. 21st Century USA is a commentary on 21st Century USA, sort of like almost as if you're driving down any interstate, kind of the things you would experience. And the rest of it, Heroin Again, Babies in Cages, Grievance Merchants, a Cooley song, one of the weaker songs he's done recently, and then the awesome Awaiting Resurrection. Just 42 effective, punch in the gut, really good lyrics, some interesting different sounds from song to song. Yeah, just a really, really good, effective album. Sort of updating the rock sound, not as much Southern rock, definitely not as much all country, but just a really good, tight, effective albums with a couple, Babies in Cages especially. Just kind of songs that linger in maybe ways you don't want them to, but you want to go back and revisit them because they are good listens. But yeah, that's number 8, right? The Unraveling. Number 7 is their second album, Pizza Deliverance, which came out in 1999. Really strong album. I think it falls back to 7 because I think the second half is definitely not as strong as the first half. Opens up with Bulldozers and Dirt, a nice slower song. It starts off with just Hood singing Bulldozers and Dirt. Very simpler type music. It's a story of a man who tries to steal a TV, gets caught, falls in love. The woman who catches him and calls the cops bails him out of jail. They end up dating for years. And then he's either hitting on her daughter or doing something much worse to her daughter. But it's a dark song. We get a song, and one of Cooley's best character studies, Uncle Frank, this almost no chorus, no chorus or verse, just this story of this man, his troubles, does not have a happy ending. There's a couple repeated phrases that just kind of build the intensity of the story. One of his absolutely best sort of character-driven narratives. What else? One of These Days, another fantastic Cooley song. Great, really sort of weird out there guitar, kind of pushing that weird Southern rock, almost psych Southern rock guitar sound slightly. Margot and Harold, for some reason, Patterson Hood does not want to go to dinner with Margot and Harold because they are weird people and there might be weird things going on there. And then maybe the centerpiece of the album, The Company I Keep, kind of a drunken sing-along type, because sometimes I'm lower than the company I keep. This is not a good person. This guy's kind of a loser, kind of not even the best of people. And it's his song, man. You just got to sing along because sometimes you're lower than the company you keep. Kind of falls off a little bit after that. The President's Penis is Missing is kind of a silly little waltzy number. The rest of the stuff has its moments. Their bass player at the time, Rob Malone, has a song, Mrs. Du Bois, which has a nice kind of jammy instrumental beginning before we get to the lyrics. And then the closing song, The Night G.G. Allin Came to Town, is one of those Hood story songs where he's telling the tale of the night G.G. Allin came to town. Kind of one of those slow burning songs that works really well live because Patterson is a really good live presence. It's a good album closer too. But there's a couple songs before that kind of weaken the impact of this album. But I think it's a really good album, a much rawer sound than everything after this. They definitely got better production after this. But I think it's a really good album. And Cooley's Uncle Frank, one of the best songs he's done. Number 7, Pizza Deliverance. Number 6 is American Band. This is their 11th album, came out in 2016. Very much a commentary of the times in the United States. A couple songs address gun violence. One of Hood's most, I would say, impactful songs emotionally is the Guns of Umpqua, which is a song about I'm pretty sure it's a true story. An Iraq, I'm almost positive it is, an Iraqi vet who returned, went back home in Oregon, started to attend community college, and he was killed in a school shooting in Oregon. Community happened, I think, 2014, 2015. And like just that whole story of like, you survived war and you come back and this is what your country has for you. And it's not, he's just telling the story, but the way he tells the story is just like, it's pretty haunting. The opening track, Ramon Casiano. Ramon Casiano was a 15-year-old boy who was shot down at the border here in the United States. The guy who shot him went to jail, got out early, and then pretty much became one of the most hardcore NRA gun rights activists ever. This is a story about Ramon Casiano and, you know, guns and bullets and what they do to our society. We got a lot of songs just about sort of this current state of hypocrisy in America, Surrender Under Protest, Once They Banned Imagine, What It Means, a longer Patterson Hood songs where he mentions Obama by name. He talks about, you know, shootings, you know, how talks about racism in America. Like they're taking the issues of the time and hitting them face on and expressing their opinions and not holding back. Hood's more hit you in the gut. Cooley's more like, I'm going to use my words and manipulate you, but incredibly, incredible words. Like he's definitely not as direct. Couple sort of like short, terse Cooley rockers like Filthy and Fried. Ever South, a nice, slow, kind of longer Hood number. Baggage, a really good closing song. Yeah, just a really, really solid album. Definitely more mainstream rock. I guess they flirt sort of with all country every once in a while. But yeah, just an absolutely amazing album. And really, Hood's Guns of Umpqua is just, even if you don't check out the album, check out that song because it is sort of a nice acoustic, like, yeah, sunny day, I'm going to community college in Oregon, and the trees is a beautiful place. But yeah, no, does not end well. Yeah, really good album, man. So yeah, my number 6, American Band. Number 5 is their debut album, Gangsta Billy. It's what they play, hillbilly gangster, gangster rock, hillbilly rock. It's a good description of their music. Listen to the names of the songs. Wife Beater, Demonic Possession, The Tough Sell. Awesome, awesome, awesome guitar intro. They play these guitar jams that have like this dun-it, like these just like chorded things that set up this really sparse, ominous sort of vibe that they just lay these tales over. Tough Sell, one of those. The Living Bubba, I'm going to talk more about that on that other video I'm going to make about them. Incredible song. Cooley's only contribution on this album, Panties in Your Purse. Great Cooley song. Why Henry Drinks. 18 Wheels of Love, because his mama married a trucker. One song that they play live, Hood tells this really long, like 5-minute tale about his mom marrying this trucker, and then they go into the song. I've heard the story too much, but the song's kind of good. And then the absolutely awesome combination, which they do live awesome, Steve McQueen, just a song that talks about what a badass Steve McQueen was, into Buttholeville. You can imagine what Buttholeville's about. Two just heavy, gritty, southern rockers, man. Yeah, their sort of underground edge is coming through on those songs. And then the closing sandwiches for the road. Just a solid. I think the songs, like there's a couple absolutely great songs. Living Bubba is one of their best. But I think the energy, you can tell this band has something to say. There's a vitality to this album. There's definitely like a band who's like, you feel like they're going to matter. And they do. I hope more people, I want more people to fall in love with this band. This is an amazing band. But this is a really solid debut. My number 5, Gangsta Billy. Number 4, Brighter Than Creation's Dark. This was their first album they made after Isbell left after making 3 albums. Their 7th album came out in 2008. It's a long album. I don't know if it's a double album. It's 75 minutes, so it would be a double album. But it really is them at their most like It almost feels like they're giving you a little bit of everything they do, but it's all really, really good versions of it. So like in no way is the anything watered down. The bass player, Shona Tucker, has, I think, 3 songs on here, and they're all pretty good. I like her country voice. I wish they'd maybe written songs for her more. I don't think her songwriting's up to par as Cooley and Hood's. Starts off really simple with his 2 daughters and a beautiful wife. Nice sound, simple little thing, but apparently it sounds like another eulogy. Cooley's 3 Dimes Down, which again, this great Cooley line right here. Chicken wing puke eats the candy apple red off his Corvette. Chicken wing puke eats the candy apple red off his Corvette. Yeah, it's about a guy who's driving around, people throwing out the window of his car. The Righteous Path, amazing Patterson Hood song, just about struggling in the modern times, about how you're kind of doing everything right and living your life the best you can, but it's still just too hard to make it. Daddy Needs a Drink, Self-Destruction Zones, a really good Cooley upbeat number. The Opening Act, a song I'm going to talk about more in another video. Great slow burning ballad. The absolutely brutal That Man I Shot, sort of an anti-war message about that man I shot. The first minute and a half of this and the way that guitar intro is just one of the most like powerful moments. Saw them open a show with this once, and it's just like set the bar so high as far as the energy level goes. The second half of this album has almost kind of reminds me of Ween, has this browner, sort of weirder, more eclectic, kind of murky vibe. Some of the songs kind of bleed into each other, but it all works. It's all really effective. Check out Time in Vegas, You and Your Crystal Meth, which is one of the more, I don't want to say avant-garde, but kind of out there numbers on here. Goods Field Road, an absolute stomper. Almost sounds like a Grateful Dead, like West LA Fadeaway type song opens up with the line about honey, take care of the children. And then there's this whole tale about a guy and he's going to do this business deal and stuff like that. And you lose sight of the fact that the first line is honey, take care of the children. And then you get to the end and you realize, oh, this guy has no plans on coming back from this and is probably going to die in this. But it's about a guy struggling in like modern day America in the South and just trying to make ends meet. Brutal song. And then Cooley's A Ghost of Most, another song with amazing lyrics. And it closes out with the Monument Valley, kind of a tribute to, what's his name? John Ford? Is that his name? Doesn't sound right. The director, Monument Valley. John Ford, right? Doesn't sound right. Anyways, a really solid album. They kind of hit every little mark. Country, heavy rock, sweetness, heaviness, political. It's all over the place. But it's all perfect. My number 4, Brighter Than Creation's Dark. Number 3 is Decoration Day, their 4th album, if I'm not mistaken. Their first with Jason Isbell. And Jason Isbell contributes 2 songs to this. Both of them are absolutely incredible. One of them is Outfit, this awesome little like father writing a letter to his son, like, don't call what you wear an outfit, call it home on your sister's birthday. Some really good advice about how a Southern man should act. And then Decoration Day, which is sort of just this awesome sort of epic song about his, I guess, a father and his son and Decoration Day. And it's just kind of a powerful little number. Other than that, this is one of the 3 albums. These top 3 albums are untouchable. Like, I don't care if you put this 1, 2, or 3. These top 3 albums, I think it just comes down to personal preference because they're all perfect. The Deeper End, a song about a true story about a brother and sister who get married and have kids and run from the law. Sinkhole, absolute just one of the greatest live songs. The energy in this song about a banker taking away a farmer's home and that tale. Marry Me, one of my favorite Cooley songs about some guy, his father. One of the best opening lines. You know what? We're going to talk about that song another day. Heathens, which was supposed to be the title of this album, sort of a nice little Hood acoustic number. Sounds Better in the song, a really nice sort of low-key kind of Cooley late at night singing in the microphone in the dark type song. Really good song. Careless, a nice good upbeat rocker. When the Pin Hits the Shell, another great Cooley song. Loaded Gun in the Closet, the Cooley ending song. Just like hit after hit after perfect song after perfect song. Why is this 3 as opposed to like 1 or 2? Because I think the latter half of this kind of gets a little weaker than the first half. I mean, the first half is pretty strong. You get that ballad deeper in, the absolute irresistible Sinkhole, Hell No, I Ain't Happy, a really hardcore, like, Patterson Hood rocker, Marry Me, My Sweet and Nat, another little sweet kind of country-ish hood song, the absolutely amazing Outfit. I mean, you just get this great run of songs in the beginning. And I think the second half kind of just gets a little bit weaker and doesn't hit quite as hard, but still a fantastic album. Some of the best Southern rock country, all country you will ever hear. And really, Sinkhole, Marry Me, Outfit sounds better in the song. Decoration Day, maybe a couple other songs, but definitely those. They're just must-hear songs. You got to hear them. This band is fantastic. It's my number 3, Decoration Day. Number 2 is their third album, Southern Rock Opera. This came out 2 weeks after 9/11, people, way back in 2001. It is a double album. And it's addresses pretty much the duality of the Southern thing. Just stories about living in the South, about politics in the South. There's a whole section about Leonard Skinner. Like, we talk about them by name. We mention their Cassie Gaines. We talk about the plane crash. One of the songs is called Greenville to Baton Rouge, which is where that plane was going when it crashed. The last song in the entire album, Angels and Fuselage, is about sitting on that airplane as it's going down and seeing angels and fuselage in the trees down in the swamps below. Absolutely haunting, devastating song. Some of the best hard rockers they've ever made are on here. Ronnie and Neil, great song about the relationship between Ronnie Van Zant and Neil Young, writing songs for each other, but how apparently Neil was, a pallbearer at Ronnie's funeral. It addresses that whole thing. Whole bunch of sort of songs about being in the South. You get a song called The Southern Thing, 3 great Alabama icons, Wallace, about the Governor George Wallace. You get what may possibly be Mike Cooley's best song ever, Zip City, about this young 17-year-old who's driving way too far to try to hang out with a girl who's not quite giving him what he wants. That's all on the first disc. The second disc, you get Let There Be Rock, about just all the bands Patterson Hood used to see when he was a kid. I dropped acid when I was 14 at a Blue Oyster Cult concert. Just an absolutely amazing sort of good show-ending song. Road Cases. Cooley's devastating Women Without Whiskey, which is just about the struggles with whiskey, and I think whiskey wins in the song. Plastic Flowers on the Highway, kind of a really creepy song with some funky guitar about, you know why you put plastic flowers on the highway? Because there's been an accident there. And then you get the entire last side, which is pretty much about Leonard Skinner and their experience. Cassie's brother, about members of the band, Life in the Factory, kind of their history of them. Shut Up and Get on the Plane. We know what happens when they do. It's just a fantastic album. All Hood Cooley songs. Malone, their bass player, has the last song on side A, Move. He wrote Cassie's brother. It's just ridiculous. You get like a good Chuck Berry Rave Up and Guitar Man Upstairs. You get the opening song, Days of Graduation. I'm not going to tell you what the opening song is because they're sort of a joke. It's almost a setup for a joke. But it's graduation night. There's somebody racing down a highway. A car flies off, hits a tree. The ambulances come out. That's the story. Ominous music, ominous tale. There's nothing positive about it. But there's a joke at the end that is just, it kind of lays the way for the entire album. It is the sort of, I guess it is a joke. It makes me laugh every time I hear it. Though it's a creepy, creepy song. You're not supposed to laugh because it's a creepy song. But that is sort of like, it is a magical moment. I think it is one of the great sort of payoffs of any song ever is the end of Days of Graduation. And then right after that, they rip right into Ronnie and Neil, which is just has this dun 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 dun, just this like, yeah, fist pumping like anthem. Yeah, a fantastic album, people. Like, absolutely, probably a perfect album if you ask me. If just as a lover of music, you got to check out this album. And number 1, because I think it's better. But number 2, Southern Rock Opera. And number 1, 2004, their 5th album, The Dirty South. Jason Isbell's second. Probably Jason Isbell's greatest song ever, Danko Manuel, which he was going to write a song about how Levon Helm was dealing with Danko and Manuel's passing and he couldn't do it. So he made it about himself as a musician. And it is one of the most, when this song comes on in the house, if my wife, I can't play the song in the car. She will immediately make me change it. But if it comes on in the house, she's like, nah, it is just way too, it just puts you in the feels. I can't explain it. But if you listen to the song and you're not moved, I don't know. I'm sorry for you. Listen to it more. It's this slow, like, dun, 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 and it's just the tail, the vocal delivery. It is a perfect song. The opening, Where the Devil Don't Stay. Cooley, apparently all done in one take. Just this blistering guitar attack. Isbell on the slide guitar. It's about making whiskey down in the South and about how, why are they coming after me when I got the same skin as all these? I mean, it is a devastatingly hard rocking, just awesome, awesome song. Lyrically fun. Tornadoes, about tornadoes, has a great Cooley and Patterson Hood line about being on stage when a tornado hits an arena and things happening. The Day John Henry Died, not the best Isbell song, but sort of a rewriting of the John Henry tale. Patterson Hood's devastating, putting people on the moon. Again, sort of about living near, where they're sending people on the moon, and yet you live an hour away and like just abject poverty, and like your wife has cancer and is dying from cancer probably caused by, Space City. And it's just like that struggle against the government to get help when they're not focused or even care about you. Carl Perkins' Cadillac, one of my Cooley's best song about Sam Phillips and Sun Records. Absolutely, absolutely amazing, catchy, happy song with another one of my all-time favorite lyrics. Sands of Iwo Jima, about seeing John Wayne out there in World War II, about somebody's uncle who's watching John Wayne going, I don't remember seeing him there, and I was there. Why is he the hero? I was there. He was. I didn't see him. And then we get this 3 songs that are a response to Walking Tall, the movie here in the States about the sheriff who apparently a bunch of sort of Southern gangsters killed his wife, and he went on this rampage and took justice into his own hand, carried a stick. So these stories, as Patterson Hood narrates before the first one, are from the other side of the story. And like how Buford, the sheriff, was a bully and like abused his power. And now you're hearing the other side of the story. You get the boys from Alabama, Mike Cooley's amazing acoustic-driven Cottonseed, which is about a guy who put more lawman in the ground than Alabama put Cottonseed, but somehow you see his side of the story. So well done. But still, he did put more lawmen in the ground than Alabama put Cottonseed. The Buford Stick, you get Daddy's Cup, this amazing Cooley song about like wanting to be a racer like his dad, and he still never won, but he's going to keep doing it. Never Going to Change, a really good Isbell rocker, which I know he's still doing live. I think I've seen him do it live. Lookout Mountain, song they had been playing live for years, but finally they put it on an album, just this absolute awesome hard rocker. And then Jason Isbell's devastating Goddamn Lonely Love to close out the album, which is just perfect from start to finish. There is not a bad song on this album. There is not a bad moment on this album. It hits hard from the beginning. It hits hard at the end for different reasons. It is a perfect album, The Dirty South. And that is it. I felt like I talked fast, but I wanted to get through this and not break it up into 2 videos. Thank you for watching. If you have not checked out this band, Dirty South, Decoration Day, Southern Rock Opera, start with those 3. Yes, from there it's downhill, but there are so many good moments on so many albums you're not going to mind because those albums are stupidly fantastic. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought. Leave me your list in the comments, what I'm wrong about, what I need to re-listen to. You know how comments work, people. Why do I go on this spiel every time? I guess it's for that person this is their first video. Thank you for choosing me. But anyways, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and go listen to this music and convert other people to Drive By Truckers fans. They are a fantastic band. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Peace.